We need to talk about Autism Barbie. Ooh, do we want Mpreg Sans in frame? Yeah. Yeah, Mpreg Sans. So, Mattel just released Autism Barbie. And she is an addition to their growing selection of disability representation in their most popular doll line. The internet is a little bit up in flames about she's a welcome addition. So let's talk about it. My Autism Barbie's wrist is like fucked. What happened to her? Help. Should we unbox her? Maybe we should unbox her. ASMR. ASMR Autism Barbie. Okay. Whoa. Calm yourself, Embreg Sounds. Free her. Free my girl. She ain't done nothing wrong. Oh, yes. The pronouns tablet. Let's give her those back. She's cute. I like her. I think she's fun. I don't enjoy that her one shoe keeps falling off. She can fit in with my other disabled Barbies. None of my Barbie wheelchairs are currently occupied by Barbies. Oops. Oh god. Laguna in the blue Barbie chair. Cute. Disney ILI doll in the Barbie wheelchair. I like her. She's always lived in this Barbie wheelchair. Like, sorry, but the wheelchair Barbie that came with her is in my storage unit. My bad. And then, of course, we have to have Nessa Rose holding her long-distance boyfriend like a cookie because she misses him. Tiny Nessa Rose. I'm actually a huge fan. When I initially heard that Mattel was making an Autism Barbie, I was kind of concerned, not gonna lie. Not because I thought that they'd do it wrong necessarily, but because I knew, like with, in the past, the Down syndrome Barbies, there's more than one of them, which is awesome, and we should get back to that. But blind Barbie, Down syndrome Barbie, type 1 diabetes Barbie, they all were made in conjunction with an organization that is like by the people for the people, you know what I mean? So with Autism Barbie, given the unfortunate popularity of a certain organization called Autism Speaks, I was a little concerned that they might choose to work with Autism Speaks, which of course we know would be the popular choice, but absolutely not the right one. I am very happy to see that they worked with the Autism Self-Advocacy Network. It's by autistic folks, for autistic folks. As we saw, there's their thing that's like, hey, we helped make this, which I think it's really cool that they're highlighted on the box. It is the same for the aforementioned Barbies as well, and I do want to collect them too. That being said, I do want to mention that there is not really like a perfect organization to work with in this scenario. There have been allegations that ASAN or ASAN, whatever, the ASAN may have plagiarized work from an indigenous writer a few years ago. Not cool, obviously. They themselves have not spoken up about this, and the assumption is they likely just deleted the post in question that they plagiarized. There is a post by the Goth Autistic on Instagram about this. Just for some background on the plagiarism history with ASAN, for those who are curious, I was around back when it happened 4 years ago, and yeah, they plagiarized from Autistic Typing, an indigenous person's Facebook post in their book. I There were posts showing them side by side, and while it wasn't word for word, the themes were pretty much the same, and it was structural plagiarism and another form of plagiarism. ASAN's response to the concerns that was absolutely disgusting and racist. They kept deleting all the comments by racialized people, calling them out and bringing concerns back to them, and silencing Black autistic people. Then a couple of the staff members tried to weaponize lawyers against autistic typing. So while this doesn't change my personal opinion that they were still a pretty good choice for Mattel to work with on this doll, that doesn't mean that there isn't nuance to the subject, and everyone is obviously entitled to their own informed opinion. I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want to catch any you like pancakes, that must mean you hate waffles type comments. We love being critical thinkers. We love using our media literacy skills. Yippee! So my general thoughts after seeing the media shitstorm online about this is that there is an insane lack of critical thinking skills being utilized here in this situation somehow. You're allowed to not like Autism Barbie, but why are most of the comments I'm seeing mostly, I don't like her because she doesn't represent all autistic people, or autism is an invisible disability, autism doesn't have a look. I don't know. I think the real sentiment behind this, which may be uncomfortable for a lot of people to sit with, is I don't like her because she doesn't represent me. Guys, no kidding. She's not going to represent every autistic person. I can't think of one single thing that could feasibly represent every autistic person, including the commonly used infinity or sunflower symbols. Infinity symbol for autism, the sunflower for invisible disabilities. Not every autistic person uses and identifies with these symbols to represent themselves. So there's quite literally zero way to represent every person of a specific group of people in any format whatsoever, aside maybe the word autistic, but even then, some autistic folks still prefer to say that they have Asperger's. She doesn't represent all autistic people. Yeah, no shit. She can't. Can anything represent everyone? No. It's not how that works. And not to mention, autism is not an inherently invisible disability. Many high support needs autistic people who appear to be, kind of most represented by this doll, this Autism Barbie appears to kind of more physically represent high support needs autistic people who, maybe utilize these tools more frequently. It's really disappointing to see because a lot of these people who are on that end of the spectrum don't really have the luxury of people not being able to tell at a glance that they're autistic. As much as we want to say autism doesn't have a look, there are people who you can look at and infer that they probably are autistic. This lack of understanding and compassion for high support needs individuals, or even just representation that doesn't inherently look like you but can still represent you in some kind of way, are coming from predominantly white and low support needs autistic communities and critics online. It's really disappointing to see because this is absolutely a step in the right direction that we should be encouraging. I myself obviously am a white autistic person. I am on the more lower end of the support needs spectrum. Do I use some of these tools? Yes. Do I need them all the time? No. Can people tell from a glance that I'm autistic? Not usually. I don't understand why people, by all means like me, are getting so pressed about this, because I still feel represented by her. And you don't have to, by the way. You don't have to feel represented by her. She's not for you. She wasn't made to represent you. She wasn't made to represent me. She wasn't made to represent any one person. Is Mattel a perfect company? No. We shouldn't just like blindly praise everything that they do. They cut corners all the time, especially in their Barbie line lately, because there's been a significant decrease in quality, especially in the clothing department, compared to what they used to put out. But I think working a long time on a doll who shows visible traits of autism, working with a self advocacy group of autistic individuals, is something that we should not be fighting against. They put way more care and effort into this doll than most other fashionista dolls. Like, she's not perfect, but no doll is, and no human is, and no autistic person is. There is no perfect example of autism that exists. So why are we holding her to this impossible standard when that's just not the point? Did nobody watch the Barbie movie? Did anybody watch the Barbie movie? Like, she isn't for you or me or any one person in particular. She is for little girls who can see themselves in her in ways that we as little girls never got to see ourselves growing up. You know who she's for? She's for my 7-year-old cousin who was so excited to have gotten a pair of loops for Christmas because she gets so overstimulated at noises. I'm not sponsored by Loops, but if you want to, Loops, hit me up. But like, I have a pair as well, and she was so excited. She was like, Nina, look. We got the same, like, it was a great moment. And so I just feel like there being a Barbie doll with noise-canceling headphones is probably a big deal to girls like her. She is for the siblings of autistic kids who will have an easy-to-grasp tool to understand and relate to their sibling. She is not for you specifically. She's not for anyone specifically. She is for anyone and everyone who wants to claim her. There's also a lot of talk about these visible traits she exhibits in a negative light, even coming from autistic people, which again is so ironic and so sad. I almost have to laugh so that I don't crash out about it. But like, I don't understand what the big deal is. So many dolls don't have straight on eye contact. Like, her not making direct eye contact isn't a negative stereotype. It's just her exercising, moving her facial rig. Can you tell I'm an animation dropout? Everyone can move their eyeballs to the side. That's something that people do. It's not like people's eyes are always facing forward 24/7 bar autistic people. Like, except autistic people. That's just, like, come on guys, this is getting ridiculous. Even, like, let me find one of Paige's Monster High dolls. Like, are we supposed to hate this Draculaura for having a cheeky side glance? I feel like no. Whoops. Calm yourself, Emperor Sands. I want to share Kishana Music's take on this as a POC AAC user. Barbie has always existed for little girls and boys for as long as I can remember. She always had different jobs and pets and sisters and so on. No one batted an eye at Blind Barbie when she came out. No one gave a second thought because she fit the societal narrative of what blindness looks like, even though blindness also exists on a spectrum. Many people expect to see a white cane and sunglasses, but when a new Barbie with headphones, an AAC device, and a fidget spinner comes out, suddenly people are divided. Some don't like her because she represents some form of visibility for autism, and some praise her for taking a stepping stone into more inclusivity. Being an AAC user since 2021, I'm happy to see more visibility in AAC representation because it shows that one style of communication isn't a one-size-fits-all. AAC usage has become more recognized and understood, and having that seen in a doll is especially helpful for kids who are the main demographic for this doll. The doll is there to show that it can be anyone who may see themselves in the doll. As AAC users aren't shown much in media, if at all, especially AAC users of color. My main praises come from the fact that a widely known doll has an AAC device, something that hasn't been shown in wider media where physically speaking is still seen as the default. Let's allow the doll to exist for a moment. Let her breathe before y'all get all uppity about the presentation of the doll. And I'm also going to put on screen now and link in the description her mutual aid request. She is saving money towards food, transport, medical needs, all the things. So if you want to support her, check the link. I think I can figure out a way to link it in the top card, and I will show her post and her Instagram feed on screen. Also, similar things are being said about her arms being articulated so she can stim and flap her arms. Do you just not want your dolls to have more points of articulation? I genuinely don't get it. Like, it just feels like everyone is trying to find things to be mad about because they're uncomfortable and they don't want to admit to this discomfort. You can also just, like, choose not to flap her arms if you don't want to. Like, she's your doll. You bought her. She's your doll, so you can do whatever you want with her. I don't get it. I don't. Again, I could make this Draculaura flap her arms because her arms move. She's more posable. She has more points of play and more points of display for display collectors. She's got articulation so that she can flap her arms. Great. Can all the fashionista dolls have articulation? Isn't it, like, much preferred in the wider Barbie community, the, like, made to move bodies? Just a thought. I think all the other disabled dolls also have made to move bodies. The wheelchair Barbie does because she has to. She has to bend her legs. You being uncomfortable with this doll exhibiting traits of high support needs autism does not mean that there is something morally wrong with this doll's existence. It means that you have some stuff to unpack about your perception of people who exhibit these traits. There's a really great creator that my friend Autumn put me on, Fidgets and Fries. My son sits right at the heart of this. To see his needs framed as optics that need management, or his supports looked upon as symbols to avoid turning him into something people would react against, honestly hurts. It hurts because I don't get to look away from my son, and I wouldn't want to. If a doll that was deliberately made with markers that made autism more visible to the public, markers that my son, whose autism is loud and in your face, shares, makes people this uncomfortable, what does that say about how they see my child? Autistic adults who didn't care for the doll made the argument that autism doesn't have a look. This overlooked the reality that while there are no physical characteristics of autism, there are shared behaviors, mannerisms, access needs, and tools that can point towards autism. My son wears his autism like skin. People assume disability with every room he's in. Autism doesn't have a look sounds progressive on the surface. However, the responses, the attitudes displayed, tell me what I have witnessed many times before, that the phrase often functions as, please don't let autism be associated with bodies and behaviors that can't pass. There's no denying the hierarchy here. Those autistic folk like myself who can speak, type, mask, live independently, often need society to understand that autism does not equal visible disability. This is an argument I understand wholeheartedly, but when it becomes an absolute, it turns my son into collateral damage, and then what I really see is, I don't want to be mistaken for someone like that. My child's reality is being treated as an inconvenience to someone else's identity. There's an ache that comes with seeing people negotiate how close they're willing to stand to my son's reality. That's some nasty work. And the caption of this post is also great. My son's autism is highly visible. Even if someone can't give it name, even if they don't know in what way he's disabled, they know he's disabled. With one look. And this is a reality for so many people and families. Too many within this community fear this reality, and while where they are coming from and what side they're on influences what they fear, it's still fear. And something I've witnessed for years and didn't have the language for until the responses to a Barbie with autism forced me to find the words. So, more words. There's so much grief here for me, because I have offered my son his reality to this world as someone worthy of being seen, and there are people literally saying, not like that. Y'all don't even recognize the cruelty in claiming to want/fight for liberation while still demanding performance. My son is who the fuck he is. His disability is not to be curated. He is not a brand-safe version of autism. His autism is loud, visible, embodied, and non-negotiable. And I am obsessed with this woman. Now, along this kind of same vein, there has also been talk about how this particular Barbie's STEM toys and accessories, like the fidget spinner, the headphones, the AAC device should just be sold as their own separate pack to utilize with any Barbie. And I don't disagree, but you do have to start somewhere. We have never gotten a Barbie wheelchair sold separately from a wheelchair Barbie. And while I would love to be able to have that option, particularly because I prefer to put other dolls in the Barbie wheelchairs, we have to also remember that it's way more cost effective to buy a doll that comes with the accessories than to buy a doll and the accessories separately. I think regardless of if there was a separate autism accessories pack, people would still complain. If these things came without a doll, people would complain that Barbie doesn't actually have any autism representation and that little girls are being forced to buy extra stuff to see themselves represented in play. I just want to point out, like, think about how we don't see any hijabi Barbies in stores. While it's obviously, like, clearly it's not the same thing. Like, okay, critical thinking caps on, folks. Critical thinking caps on. Imagine that instead of just making a hijabi Barbie, they just had an accessories pack instead. Would that not tell little girls that Mattel doesn't care enough to just make a doll for them, and they would rather put in less effort on their end so that these girls can just be creative and make the representation for themselves? I don't know. Again, there's nuance to the whole thing, and it's not a perfect comparison. Like, should there be separate accessories? Yeah. Should there still be a doll that utilizes those accessories? Also, yeah. In my opinion, anyway. Also, in my research for this video, I found this insane take by Sky News Australia, because I guess they had nothing else better to talk about. They made a video titled, "Mattel mistakenly thinks Autism Barbie will solve everything." No, they don't. Where has Mattel said this? Like, is this messaging from Mattel in the room with us right now? It's giving this meeting could have been an email, like this news broadcast could have been an article, like we could pick any number of vastly more important takes to talk about on a news site than this.
And I really do feel for a lot of families with kids with profound autism who see this and think, I just wish the only challenges I had to deal with I could solve by putting a pair of earphones on or having a fidget spinner.
And they've given it sort of movable hands and arms as well. So, it's called stimulation, where people do stuff like this is to sort of like calm themselves down. Yeah. I mean, for goodness sake.
They also, if they wanted to do that, I think it's a great idea, give the money in the US to Autism Speaks and Autism Awareness Australia and the really good preeminent bodies. Instead, they use the Autism Self-Advocacy Network, which for those of us that work in the space, look, for people with profound autism, they'd love to be able to advocate for themselves, but unfortunately their autism is too much of a disability.
This news site is like, Mattel thinks that autism can just be solved by giving kids a pair of headphones and a fidget spinner, but where are the real solutions to autism? This take I'm seeing mainly stems from autism moms online who tend to make their child's autism all about them. I need you to understand that when I say autism moms and mothers of children with autism are two completely separate things. Mattel isn't trying to solve autism, and they're not saying that fidget spinners and headphones do solve autism. Autism moms have been complaining that our girly right here doesn't look disheveled enough to represent their child. Or, to word it this way, doesn't look disheveled enough to represent their struggle with their kids' autism. This has led to some, quite frankly, disgusting AI posts where these moms generate images that better represent their autistic child, and they all feature a cracked iPad, matted hair, just a complete mess, but also a lot of these have literal like bruises everywhere. I don't know, like it's more than concerning to me that somehow whatever Gen AI these women used came to the conclusion that autistic children somehow all look like a CPS case waiting to happen. Obviously, I'm not saying that any mom whose autistic kid has a cracked cracked table. Like, I'm not saying any mom whose autistic kid has a cracked tablet or messy hair is an abusive parent, but like, it's just gross and it leaves a terrible taste in my mouth and I hate it. Back to fidgets and fries, she also talks about this, and again, she's awesome, so I'm going to share her words again. The autism parents who take issue with the doll, out of pocket, for real. I saw the image of a messy autism mom, Barbie, and so many comments about how this doll isn't my child, and they go on to list all the struggles their children have. For me, it was triggering to read. And while some modified their language a bit, it still did the same thing, shifted focus off of autistic people and onto themselves. They thought they were saying, this doll doesn't match my child's needs, but what they were actually saying was, this doll doesn't match my pain. This Barbie wasn't selling ease, she wasn't promising an outcome, she wasn't erasing struggle. She's just a doll being a damn doll. Redesigning her as a disheveled caregiver caricature turned autism into a burden story, a martyr story, a survival story. I ain't into none of that. No notes. Also, in like the smallest of footnotes here, I do want to say that, like I mentioned earlier, in my research, I found conservatives just like flipping their shit over Barbie's AAC device having buttons for pronouns. First of all, I can't even see them. Like, I'm looking. Come on, guys. It's 2026. We can get over that. We can get over the whole pronouns thing. It's always been a thing. So, I don't know. Take that as you will. It's just kind of funny to me that, like, Ben Shapiro just, like, zoomed the fuck in on this Barbie AAC device and was like, that's a pronoun. Barbie's woke now. I also wanted to highlight an important discussion about capitalism and why things like, obviously, rainbow capitalism and other such movements to profit off of marginalized groups should absolutely be criticized. But also to bring forward another post by the awesome Fidgets and Fries that touches on the nuance of the situation. The argument that autistic representation in a doll is inherently capitalism profiting off disability doesn't land the same for me, because capitalism didn't have an issue with autism as a concept. They didn't object to profiting from disability. They took issue with our autistic reality. So much so, they needed to soften it so that it would be marketable. They wanted something safer, symbolic, more palatable for non-disabled audiences. And to this day, many still want this from our book. Capitalism doesn't eagerly exploit autism. It doesn't rush to embrace autistic stories. It resists them until they are digestible. Capitalism exploits disability is too neat when the experiences of countless others states otherwise, when it's disconnected from how a lot of this actually works. Ableism tends to shape capitalism. They will market and sell what they feel is safe enough to sell. And if this includes distorting, softening, omitting, and rearranging the disability experience, it will do that if it can. Mass representation cannot exist outside of systems of exchange. It doesn't just happen without passing through economic systems. If you want representation on a larger scale, you can't avoid the dollar. If you find representation only acceptable when it avoids markets, profit, products, and realism, then where is it allowed to exist? Nowhere. It wouldn't reach people. It wouldn't show up in everyday life. Profit is not the same thing as exploitation. You always gotta challenge exploitation, but profit alone does not invalidate representation. If it did, my autistic behind couldn't sell books in the first place. Representation is not liberation, but lack of representation is erasure. Representation inside capitalism will always be imperfect because it enters systems that are already flawed. And I think that's the note I really want to drive home here is, should we really be attacking non-exploitative representation and inclusion of autistic folks simply because it's making money? Should Tiffany stop writing books? Should I stop making silly stickers and keychains? Other art? No. We have to understand that if we want more eyes on our situation, we have to let these outlets for positive change exist. Whether it's a doll or a character. Twyla, my beloved, you will get your own video soon, perhaps. We have to unpack the projection and discomfort based around the fear of being judged for our autistic traits. Because as this issue stands now, our own community is actively harming the chances of this type of representation happening more frequently. We're telling companies like Mattel that we don't want autistic traits shown to the world, that we want to keep them out of sight, which I think is really the exact opposite of what most of us are actually hoping we can achieve in society with autism acceptance. As I'm closing out here, I do want to showcase some really cool art I've found of Autism Barbie and Twyla. Her with Twyla, they're besties, I've decided. It's also cute and it makes me want to draw something myself, so please check out these artists. Their works are so good. Also, if you were intrigued by my mention of my spinning stim keychains, I do actually have a backer kit up and awaiting launch to bring these bad boys to a larger audience. I want to say we're gonna launch April 1st. Not an April Fool's joke, maybe we'll launch April 2nd so that people don't freak out. Sorry, I got distracted. I really want to bring these bad boys to more of you because anytime I go to a show, I have one of these on my display that's like a tester, like try me, and I swear some people just come up and they start spinning it. I can't stop spinning it and I'm like, it's okay. I really wanted to make something that you can take anywhere. Like you can clip this to your belt loop, you can clip it to your backpack, you can clip it to a necklace, I don't know, whatever. Like it's portable, it spins, it has a nice noise. It's a good noise. Anyway, so I'll have the backer kit linked in my description. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I've never asked for that before. Feels weird to ask. It's scary actually, and it feels weird. But if you did enjoy this video, consider trade offer. Subscribe. I be funny on the internet and talk about things on the internet. It seriously means a lot to me if you made it to the end, and like I really want to grow my channel this year with more videos on like a whole range of interesting topics or just whatever I feel like yapping about at the time. So stick around if you want to see that. Okay.